Side characters. They make us laugh, they make us cry, they overshadow the boring protagonist, and above all else, they die. It's always a nice break glass in case of emergency for writers. A guarantee of raising emotional stakes without sacrificing too much of the plot's momentum. Not saying side characters can't become vital to the plot, but in that case it's always best to save those deaths for last. Unless, of course, you're Stranger Things. And if you don't know what Stranger Things is, I hope you're enjoying your Crackle subscription. Sorry, your Sony Pictures Core subscription. I swear, everyone has to have one. Not gonna gloss over the finale too much, but holy airball, nobody? Not one? Even the one you technically did kill, you basically looked us dead in the eyes and was like, hey, but she might not be. You know, we could do a spin-off or a sequel of a spin-off. Which is crazy, because Stranger Things was like the poster child of killing off side characters. It was essentially their thing. Like, once a season, they would kill somebody. Barb, Bob, Alexi, some other guy, and then nada, zip, zero, no one. Also, genuinely shocked that this one here is still alive. I understand it's like an in-between thing and it's more of a kid's show, but come on. And also there's apparently going to be a season 2 that I will not be watching. I remember the good old days when Stranger Things was that supernatural conspiracy thriller drama show, and then it ET'd itself to death. Then Welcome to Derry came in and ate Stranger Things lunch along with several children. Episode 1 of that show, dare I say, mocked us with its character deaths, playing around with our sense of dread and expectations. It kept itself in the pocket of what it was really supposed to be, which is a horror noir. It had a lot of similarities to Stranger Things, but, you know, Stranger Things was inspired by it. But, you know, back and forth. It had a military subplot, some people with psychic powers, some other world to explore, but it didn't seem like it was trying to emulate Stranger Things. Then it got me back to It Chapters 1 and 2 and holy similarities, Batman. Now, I know that Nightmare on Elm Street was like the main inspiration for Stranger Things Season 4, my personal favorite of the show. But yeah, this is just It from 2017. You know, the vibes are there in life, imitating art, imitating life, imitating art, imitating life. But, you know, Vecna causing hallucinations based on, like, deep-seated regrets and fears, his lair being in some sort of haunted house in town, the whole bully subplot, the group having a redhead, Finn Wolfhard in general. It's more similar than not.
Oh, hey, Seth!
Jesus, fuck!
I heard my hyperfixation and I had to jump in. It's an autism thing, you get it. I watched the It miniseries when I was 13, mostly because of my Tim Curry obsession, but through that, I fell in love with the world of Derry and the Losers Club, and then the horror world in general. That love was definitely the reason I fell in love with Stranger Things when it first came out. The parallels are kind of impossible to ignore, especially now. I gotta say, when Sean Levy said in the documentary that came out that there was no coming-of-age horror films with Richie Tozier literally in his cast, I was like, sure, Jan.
But I think the main coinkydink that we noticed is that there are two major character deaths, both very emotional and both involving a guy named Eddie. And the fascinating bit is how much harder one hits more than the other.
Take a guess in the comments below.
Now, am I saying that one is like far superior and the other is trash? No, of course not. Different mediums, different stories. But come on, there's just enough overlap that I couldn't resist. Sue me.
I'm saying one is far superior. Sue me. Don't actually. I just got out of art school. I need all the money I can get.
How much debt are you in right now?
I haven't checked. I'm scared.
Pennywise appears as Sally Mae.
No!
Hey! Now, the best way to compare and analyze is to recognize these deaths for what they actually are, which, to be blunt, is that they are story beats. And from what I learned in film school, shout out Rhode Island.
We're in Savannah.
Shout out the Rhode Island Institute of the Arts and no other school, is that how to tell if a beat is effective and earned is through 3 criteria: setup, execution, no pun intended, and consequences. So without further ado, let us begin our tale
of two Eddies.
We're dorks.
We are? We're losers. We're fucking losers, dog.
So, who are we dealing with here? In one corner, we have Eddie Munson, super duper senior and master DM. He serves as sort of a mentor to a chunk of the main gang, mainly the nerdiest of the bunch, Dustin, before being accused of being a cult leader and a murderer. See, he also moonlights as a drug dealer and offers his services to Chrissy, local cheerleader and hometown sweetheart. And there is some chemistry. If only he wasn't, 20 years old and people weren't shipping him with a guy that he had like one interaction with.
Yeah, that was the reason that the Duffer Brothers didn't decide to go forward with any gay storylines. We'll talk about gay storylines later.
But during their deal, Chrissy is the victim of a different crime. A grisly supernatural murder, being remotely killed by the big bad of the season and I guess the show, Vecna. Eddie, scared shitless, runs away and hides out as the town blames him for the murder and starts a manhunt, spearheaded by Chrissy's jock boyfriend, Jason. And it is here we find him from the end of episode 1 to about the middle of episode 6 of 9. But in that episode, we do learn a bit about him. He's definitely unapologetic of his freak status.
Oh, don't do that.
Okay. He's very theatrical and charismatic. Definitely a little too passionate sometimes, but definitely is a bit of a softie. Especially since he definitely feels guilt about running away and leaving Chrissy for dead. Cringe, but still a softie.
And in the under corner, we give you Eddie Kazbrak, a complete hypochondriac little shit, and dare I say, the mascot of the titular Losers Club, with his name on his cast. Like the rest of his comrades residing in Derry, Maine, he is tormented and taunted by the shape-shifting Pennywise the Clown. For Eddie specifically, it disguises itself as a leper, preying on his fear of sickness, disease, and let's be honest, well, everything. With that fear, he acts as the weakest link of the club, both being the most cowardly and most physically fragile. I know he's just a kid, but regardless, he gets his arm broken and pushed away from his friends by his overbearing mother, which is also a source of his fear and anxiety. I find it interesting that both our Eddies have to be cowards in some way to progress the plot. I mean, Eddie Munson is seen hiding away from Hawkins' ire, and Eddie Kazbrak is the first loser to run away from Pennywise's visions. It's a mutual fatal flaw, and their flaw drives parts of the narrative. I mean, Eddie Munson being accused of Chrissy's murder is a real-world consequence of Vecna's plot, other than, you know, the world ending. And Eddie Kazbrak's fear actively hinders other parts of the narrative. Not only do they hinder other parts of the narrative, it hinders the narrative of the group. And that doesn't really happen with Eddie Munson because he's kind of been assigned to be Dustin's guy. And you could argue that Richie is Eddie's guy because gay reasons, but Eddie K is important to all the losers, not just Richie. Because Eddie K is so present in the losers' lives, you know, we kind of need the whole group on board to defeat this clown. Eddie K's constant pushback, whether it be his fear of the leper or his mother, creates a loving roadblock in the gang's plan to find Georgie.
Eddie Munson, on the other hand, is still mainly used as a plot device or an obstacle, wanted by the police, so he can't really do much until the final plan. Sure, he has some moments bonding with Dustin and being full-blown LARPers, non-derogatory, with their D&D talk and geeking out. He also confesses some insecurities to Steve about his cowardice in hopes of finally being something, you know, it being his year. But it's very surface level. Full transparency, I don't really think he should blame himself for Chrissy. I mean, like, what was he gonna do? Any normal person would have ran. He's not a vet at this. And what, like, call the police? They already hate him. But regardless, he seeks to make amends by joining the group in on their main plan. He and Dustin will simply act as a distraction, luring Vecna's swarm of demon bats, essentially, let's just call them demon bats, away from his base while the rest sneak in. Simple enough.
And I should mention this sequence reveals Eddie's true power. He's cool as fuck, which means he's for sure gonna die.
The performance of Master of Puppets by Metallica is metal as hell and it gets the job done, but they are not heroes. Holy foreshadowing, Batman.
Meanwhile, back in Derry, we're skipping 27 years later, where Eddie, now a risk analyst and married to a lovely woman, rejoins the rest of the Losers Club to finish what they started. Eddie has a fun reunion, especially with Richie, that is interrupted by the horrors of Pennywise. From there, like the rest of the losers, he has to find an heirloom to sacrifice to relive his memories. Without them, they have no chance to defeat the clown via Native American ritual.
This leads us to a flashback, woo, where Eddie goes back to the pharmacy where he picked up his false meds, gazebos if you will, and got checked. There the pharmacist comments on possible cancer while touching his face, but it picks away at the basic surface level fears. Then he gets called down to the basement where the memory repeats. He is once again attacked by the leper. But this time his mother is also there, trapped and tied down. He tries his best but decides to abandon her screaming as the leper tongues her. Ew.
Eddie kind of goes through it this movie. I mean, not kind of, but spoilers.
In the present, it happens again. Adult Eddie is attacked by the leper, but this time Eddie chokes him out. We should note that in all the new adult scares of the losers, Eddie is the only one to fight back, strangling him screaming "fuck you" before getting slimed.
Even in his best moments, he's still a punching bag, physically and mentally. I mean, he literally gets married to his mother, they're played by the same actress, gets attacked by a flying baby head, vomited on, and then stabbed in the face by his childhood bully that's being controlled by an ancient entity that takes the form of a clown. It's almost like Pennywise knows that he's the weakest link. especially since Stan is no longer part of the group. But regardless, he presses on back to the lair with his friends, having a momentary freeze-up when Stan comes back in Spiderhead form. Yet another string in the no-good, very bad day Eddie is having. Only this time, Richie almost dies because of it. This causes Bill to get all pissed off, which, by the way, he has no room to talk. He is the most irresponsible member of the Losers Club by far. And Eddie breaks down. It's a really grounded moment in this fever dream story. At the prospect of his best friend dying because of him, Eddie reverts back to being a scared kid afraid to let people down. Scared that he's not enough. He's ready to fully quit until Richie and Bev give him a pep talk and a fence post claiming this kills monsters if you believe it does. Wholly stating the theme, Batman.
So, as of right now, we have a new guy mingling with all the characters that we know and love, and while important to the plot, doesn't really do much other than be a witness and a human MacGuffin, versus a character that is part of the ensemble, but clearly lower on the totem pole in terms of focus and importance. Sadly, it is Bill, Bev, Ben, Eddie, Richie, Mike, Stan. Sorry. One is holding out on character development apart from one or two small snippets teeing up one quick switch into a positive direction, and the other is forced to confront his flaws and fears for the ones that he cares about. But now that they have that character development loaded up and ready to go, all that matters now is how they express it, and how the narrative will punish them. Now for both, it's the final showdown. A plan is in place and they both fail tremendously. In Hawkins, Vecna knew about their plan all along because, he's psychic, and underneath Derry, their ritual is a failure from conception because it never actually worked in the first place. The Losers Club being lied to by their well-meaning but fanatical member Mike. So now the monsters are awake, and they're pissed.
Great going, Mike. I mean, they really did you dirty in this movie, but hey, your family rocks in the prequel.
Well, in Munson's case, they were already mad at him and chasing him and Dustin through the Upside Down. They fight them off the best they can, but it's really no use. They have to run, just like they planned for anyway. They make it back to their escape portal, which I don't think they can really close, so I don't know what that's about. But Eddie decides that he needs to buy them more time, so he essentially severs the connection and closes the gate behind him, and rides off into the distance, storm of bats trailing. And I will say, that is pretty damn heroic, sticking to the plan but in a more heroic way and keeping his friends safe. Sure, he's still technically fleeing and running away, but I think in realizing in why he's running, he can actually—
Why is he stopping? Wait, why is he picking up a spear? Dude, it's a swarm of bats! You're never gonna— Oh, dear God.
I mean, I guess they would have caught up to him anyway, but dear God, man, this turns you to an idiot with a death wish. He gets like 3 licks in, and then they're all over him just biting his abdomen. Intent is nice, but it seems like an almost pointless sacrifice. Like, in Kong Skull Island when they're getting chased by the Skull Walkers, and then that one Marine decides to sacrifice himself by, unpinning 2 grenades and walking towards it, only to get tail whipped into a mountain and exploding? It feels like that. A little less mean than that, but it still feels like that. He does get an emotional moment with Dustin, who holds him as he goes, echoing the lines of it being his year, and asking him to watch out for the lost sheep. He goes as Hawkins is ripped apart by the rift opening, an earthquake. And yeah, this feels pretty forced, or at least propped up on a pedestal that it doesn't really deserve in terms of heroic sacrifice. Mainly because he technically does it twice. It's a double beat.
Guess the writers forgot his whole deal about running. And on the other hand, it makes him seem either crazy or stupid and not in a good way. It's teed up and delivers what is necessary, but it doesn't go much beyond that, no matter how much the writers want it to be big and sad.
Compare that to the gut punch that is Eddie Kasprak, bloody and nearly broken, giving every ounce of belief that he has into the spear. He repeats Bev's words as he hurls it into the deadlights to save Richie. And it works! Pennywise is seemingly dead, or at least down for the count, as Eddie is celebrating, showing a bit of confidence and a positive attitude for the first time in, honestly, any of the movies, as a spike goes through his chest. Richie wakes up to see his friend impaled, calling to him, fading. And everyone, and I mean everyone, is floored.
For context, in the book, Eddie's arm is ripped off, so he's still kind of there in the last battle and is lucid and can participate, but dear God, there is no coming back from this.
As the losers rally around their dying friend, he remembers that he nearly killed the leper. He made it small. he made it weak. In one of his final words, he gives the losers the key to defeating it, and they make do on that opportunity, belittling the cosmic horror into nothing and stomping out his heart.
With it defeated, the underground cave begins to collapse, but the way out is too narrow and Eddie is too heavy. Richie begs the rest of them to find a way, but there's no time. Eddie is lost under the well house of Neibolt Street forever. However, as impactful as a character's death can be in the moment, it's about how it affects the rest of the stories and the others down the road. And I have to admit, Eddie Munson has the advantage in this category. I mean, a whole other season of television against Eddie Kazbrak, who has 15 minutes. But I still think it manages to beat him. In those last 15 minutes, everyone is mourning and reminiscing about Eddie Kazbrak, but Richie is taking it hard. Like, he's taking it really hard. Like,
oh my god, Richie was closeted the entire time and in love with Eddie. Oh my god, that's so sad. The entire time. The entire time!
That's really scary.
How do you like it? But doomed romance aside, Eddie's loss is absolutely felt by everyone, and if you pay attention, especially with the whole memory magic thing, might only affect them. Granted, Pennywise's grip on Derry is finally over, but there's no real way of knowing. See, the most haunting thing about Derry and it is not the monster, but it's how it affects everybody around it. It makes them mean, distant, afraid, and above all else, uncaring. This thing took kids from their families for centuries, and nothing was done about it until the losers showed up. The town tells you that you will most likely go missing, and no one will do a damn thing about it. Memories lost to the weeds. Eddie might be one of them, but he will certainly be the last, and his memory will forever be in their hearts. Along with ours.
Also, Eddie's death represents more than just a loss of person, it represents a loss of childhood, a loss of innocence. Oh, Fee, that's a little much for one dude's death. Is this the autism talking? No! Here is the actual direction that Andy Muschietti gave Bill Hader on set of It Chapter 2. Now, Bill, I need you to cry, and then I need you to splash each other, and then I need you to go back to childhood. And then, Bill, I need you to realize you cannot go back to childhood. And then I need you to cry like you've never cried. What the fuck? He's right. The idea of that is permanent. You were a kid and now you're not. And it is the core of not only that scene, but the entire It book. Bill trying to get Georgie back, it targeting kids specifically, Eddie's fear. It comes from the idea that being a child makes you the most innocent and the most vulnerable version of yourself. And you lose that when you're older. But Stephen King tells us to hold on to that memory with both hands and to never let it go.
Which is sadly the complete opposite of Eddie Munson's memory. See, again, Eddie was blamed for basically everything in Season 4 because they tied the earthquake and the deaths to Eddie's D&D group, the Hellfire Club, claiming it to be actually a satanic cult. Everyone either wants to forget about him, or worse, remind his spirit to rot in hell. All except Dustin, who in the time skip between 4 and 5, which is yikes, 500 days, has taken a more defiant and abrasive attitude and a mission to keep Hellfire alive.
You know, Dustin, the only person that Eddie had a connection with. Oh wait, there was Mike and Lucas and Erica and Steve for gay reasons, and then the two other alt guys. Wait a minute, why is only Dustin the one that has to be an asshole?
No one is really a fan of the new Dustin, especially the bullies from before, beating him up and defying Eddie's grave. The only issue is the responses, though mean-spirited, I feel are actually pretty lukewarm. I mean, if you saw someone wear the merch of a fairly recent IRL murderer, I feel like you would be more up in arms. But similar to Derry, Hawkins doesn't really care and kind of wishes to move on, not because of like general apathy, mind you, more so because the military has basically taken control of the entire town. There's a hunt for an interdimensional monster in a dark dimension on the verge of fully leaking into ours and taking over. Yeah, so our characters have a lot to do. And while Dustin is still part of the team, he seems to be the only one who cares about keeping the memory of Eddie alive.
Which, like, why?
He starts off kind, letting Eddie's uncle know that he passed, but sacrificing his life for a town that hated him. Dustin claimed he was a hero. The town probably rejected that notion so many times that this is the Dustin that we're left with. Would be nice if we could see that transition, but I guess not.
Wait, what happened to Eddie's uncle? Wouldn't he be, like, doing something about, you know, everyone saying his nephew was a Satanist? Hello? I mean, I guess this season was real shit about tying up, like, any loose end. So
now Dustin, pretty much the sole bearer of Eddie's memory, is an asshole that nobody wants to deal with, even putting him in major conflict with his best bud Steve, who only really has to say what I stated earlier, that Eddie made a bad call and this was the result.
If I'm such a goddamn idiot, how come I'm the one still standing here?
Ouch. So now this whole character is used in a way to forward their development and relationship. They borderline fridged him post-death. However, points will be given to Dustin breaking down thinking he's gonna lose Steve because he can't do it again. Nice. Hit me in the feels. Unfortunately, it is severely overshadowed by all the plot going on. Bad plot, mind you.
Dare I say, the Steve Harrington we've known from seasons 1 through 4 wouldn't be jealous of a literal dead man's memory? I mean, did they just make Steve's sole personality trait jealous? God, this season sucks.
Which is why it's important to make sure deaths matter. And more importantly, don't lie to you and me on how important they actually are. Eddie's death was fairly known due to it being an adaptation, but in terms of story, it was still emotional and important to the story.
Even though longtime fans were in the know about his death, his on-screen camaraderie, plus the relatability of his arc, plus his overall narrative importance, makes the death just as impactful 39 years later.
Stranger Things Eddie was practically served on a platter since the character was introduced, and as far as I can tell, completely avoidable, but more insultingly treated like so in the show's own canon, having Eddie largely forgotten by everybody in the show, but heavily propped up by those behind the scenes.
Is there a better way to even these deaths out? Not particularly. Again, different mediums, different situations, but both stories wanted the same thing. Eddie has to die, and Eddie has to matter. One made us mourn harder with careful attachment from seeing a boy become a man and a final cruel knife twist. Unfortunately, the other had too many spinning plates to figure out what the goal was. Make us care, and make us miss him.
Luckily, they did cast Joseph Quinn, so essentially horny Twitter and fandom Reddit did their job for them. Well, everyone, I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed my friend Fee. Where did you go?
Hi, welcome to Feast Conspiracy Corner. I have a conspiracy.
Okay, we're not done.
I genuinely believe in my this isn't even on the prompter. This is off the top of my noggin, people. I genuinely believe that Eddie Munson's part in Stranger Things was supposed to go to Mike. And then they took it back because they realized, oh shit, we're gonna have to do substantial consequences to our characters. We can't do that here. I mean, just like, think about it. First of all, Mike going to California is incredibly random, and we are allowed to acknowledge it now because California does not come up again in season 5. So I think genuinely Mike was supposed to be the leader of the D&D club. He was supposed to hang out with Chrissy, and then Chrissy dies under his watch. And I mean, think about it. How much more impactful would it have been if a main character in the series was accused of murder? Right? They kind of did that with Welcome to Derry, now that I think about it. They did that with the kid's dad. Holy shit, guys! But yeah, at the end of the day, like, I think it was supposed to be Mike gets accused of Chrissy's murder, still goes to California, if we're going to put that in there, assuming that that wasn't a cop-out, to be with Elle, and then everything surrounding, like, the FBI chase is covered up by the fact that they're trying to find this killer. And then Mike either dies or gets stuck in the Upside Down. They would never kill off Mike, clearly, but still, it's a nice thought. Thank you for watching Feast Conspiracy Corner. Subscribe if you want more of Feast Conspiracy Corner, not anything that Sebastian's doing about like wrestling or DC or all that shit.
You're a goddamn guest here.
Wait, don't push me down. If you push me down, you're out of frame.
Wait, what? Shit.